Oi. Oi, oi, oi. Give me a sec to wake myself up. Hey, Owen Hutton, how's it going? How are you? How are you? All right. Where do you live, Owen? Are you UK? I'm doing all right, thank you. I'm doing all right. Dublin. That makes sense with the name. I think I could have guessed that had I put any level of thought into it. It's 10 a.m. for me. I'm chilling. I've got a few hours. I've got like 5 hours before we record Plat Chat. So I'm going to try and crack out at least one of the VODs that I haven't watched yet. And then, yeah, there's some Overwatch news this morning as well. So I wanted to talk about some of that. I mean, there's not all of the Overwatch news. Matt was hinting that there was a bunch of it, but it'll probably drop later on during the day. But Halo released an article that I wanted to at least talk about. Yeah, G2 Fnatic's the first one. G2 Fnatic is the first one. No, I don't mean the Soy news, although wonderful news. The Overwatch League, the article is called, let me just pull it up for you guys. So, there's been a bunch of, well, I mean, I don't even know how you'd start this, to be honest. There's been a lot of hopium, mostly centered around the first earnings call of the year for Activision Blizzard about whether or not they would release Overwatch 2 or say there was a beta or announce some release date or whatever. And then the earnings call didn't end up going through, as far as I'm aware, because of the deal with Microsoft. So people have been holding on to their hopium desperately, just keeping the stocks intact. Jesus Pieces, thank you for the 21 months. And then Mr. X, who works for the league and would know all of this secret shit, and I know he knows secret shit because he teases me. He's like, oh, there's something coming, but he won't tell me what it is because he's a professional. So anyway, I don't know what the thing is, but Matt posted a tweet yesterday saying something like, it was like a gif of a Barack Obama speech, and it was like, I only have one word for you, tomorrow. So heinous ball tickling going on in the league. But over on the non-official side of things, on the journalist reporter side of things, Aaron Spake, commonly known as Halo Thoughts, posted this article on Deserto today, where he said, Overwatch League homestands to make return in the West in 2022. So you're thinking, all right, well, that's a pretty outrageous headline, isn't it? Reading in, though, there is actually quite a bit of interesting information here, too. So, homestand model, what the hell does that even mean? Because we've had in the what even season was that? Was that 2019? I think it was the 2019 season where we had 2 homestands from what I can remember. Maybe it was 3? We had like one in Dallas, one in LA, and one in Atlanta? Maybe there was 3, something like that. Oh yeah, Packing 10 also got picked up by the league too, to work in like essentially the competitive integrity kind of thing, where making sure that all of the schedules and formats and rule sets make sense, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think it was 3, right? There was 3 homestands, Dallas, Atlanta, LA. So, you know, if they're thinking about the 2019 model, that's not really the homestand model, in my opinion, but it is cool because there's live events. So, you know, when I read this title, I'm thinking, well, how many homestands are there going to be? Because there's a big difference between the proposal for 2020, where people are flying around the globe and the players are going to have to be traveling, circumventing the globe twice, like they're in a fucking hot air balloon from the 1800s, and the 2019 model, where there's just a few live events. So, all right, we'll read on, shall we? So this is Aaron just explaining the homestand model, yada, yada, yada. The model ended up being shelved in 2020. So, with Season 5 2 months away, ostensibly, based on the tweet from September, or maybe not tweet, but based on the John Spector's announcement from September. But anyway, with the league ostensibly 2 months away, Western teams have been informed, sorry, my alarm's going because I don't normally wake up this early, have been informed that the league is moving ahead with its original plans regarding homestand events, which will return only in this region. Now, there's another key factor, isn't it? Obviously, the headline does say make return in the West, so one could one could surmise that from the very beginning. But their Eastern counterparts will still be playing their regional matches in an online setting. That's a major bummer. But also, the knock-on effects of that
would have given him footsteps.
End up being pretty serious. Because look at this. Season 5 of the Overwatch League will have a multi-stage format more akin to the one in place during the first 2 seasons. Stages 1 and 3 will be region-locked. That, to me, is a massive loss for the league. I know that potentially the Western teams being able to have live events, depending on how many of them there are and whether or not they're able to go through based on COVID, I think that's going to be really cool. I think that's going to be awesome. Stages 1 and 3 being region-locked, though, is tragic. I think that's tragic. That means the only time you'll see events like Hawaii in 2021 or the grand finals of 2020 or all of the league play in 2019 and 2018 will be in stage 2, which is like middle of the season, and then the end of the season. And interestingly, it seems like they've gone for... So, stage 1, according to this report, stage 1, regional. Stage 2, kind of like a mid-season invitational thing, if it features cross-regional play. Maybe it won't be invitational. Maybe it'll be all the teams. Maybe it'll only be a select few. I don't know, but interesting, right? It goes regional, mid-season invitational kind of feel, back to regional, then a last chance qualifier instead of stage 4. I think that's quite a cool idea, personally. I mean, they're going to get Omega lols for copying Valorant and stuff, but honestly, the format is good. I think that's a really good format. Having your end of the season be like, last chance to be able to qualify, and it's like a mad scramble as all of the other teams, like your season's still alive. I think that's a cool way of doing it. I think it adds a lot of hype and keeps teams motivated to the end of the season. I think that's a cool idea. But again, the implication here is that this would be region locked. Although it doesn't say that specifically, so perhaps not. But I would imagine that they would do this last chance qualifier region locked and make it more like the play-ins that they had done previously. And then the postseason competition would return to LAN and all teams presumably would be participating. Or not all teams, but the teams that did qualify for the playoffs would all be in the same location. But yeah, to me, this seems like a bit of a move backwards. It's not a move backwards in all senses. The last chance qualifier, quite like the format of that, if that does end up being the case. And the Western homestands, how many of them are there going to be? How often? And are they actually going to be able to be run in North America? I mean, I would hope so, especially considering they have 2 months still for the current Omicron wave to die down, but who knows? Anyway, it seems like a bit of a step backwards in terms of stage 1 and stage 3. I know that I wouldn't be particularly excited to go back to a format like 2020. When we've been doing our greatest of all time shows, I don't know whether you've noticed, but something that Jonathan in particular keeps bringing up is that for him, 2020 actually doesn't have very much merit. So you've got a big old asterisk over 2019 because it's GOATs. Then you've got a big old asterisk over 2020 because the teams didn't compete against each other until the grand finals. And 2021 went a long way to being able to rectify that by having this solution in Hawaii, which perhaps it's not available anymore. Maybe it's a pure logistics thing, although it seems like stage 2 is going to be cross-regional and then they go back to being region-locked. I don't know. Feels like a step backwards to me. Definitely feels like a step backwards in terms of stage 1 and stage 3. I think also it just hurt the... if you remember back to 2020, there were very few people who were caring about the 2020 product as much in terms of APAC, unless you were in that Chinese or Korean audience. The Chinese and Korean audience were really gung-ho about the APAC teams, and then the North American audience was really gung-ho about the NA teams. And there wasn't much cross-pollination between the two. There weren't that many people who were fans of all of those things. Another thing that really suffered, due to the region locking, in my opinion, was the production quality of the big games too. You guys remember the 2020 May Melee finals that had completely desynced audio the entire time and ruined one of the greatest matches I've ever cast in Valorant? It was a 7-map unbelievable giga banger where Fearless gets subbed back in and the Shanghai Dragons bring it all the way back against the Seoul Dynasty. That game was dope. Oh, sorry, did I say Valorant? Sorry, I meant Overwatch. Obviously. Omega lol. Absolute brown square moment. Anyway, the production quality was, I mean, still not quite there, honestly, for the Hawaii games, in my opinion, but vastly improved over the playoff production that was in place for APAC in 2020. And I'm just concerned that if the Western teams are playing in live venues, so much bandwidth is going to be, not literal internet bandwidth, but mental bandwidth of people running these events and doing the production and stuff like that, is going to be focused on that. I don't know whether the APAC product will end up suffering. Anyway, definitely need more information. Hopefully it'll drop later on today in terms of how much the homestand model really is involved in the West. Whether or not this report is accurate in terms of Stage 1 and Stage 3 being region locked, because I think that's a massive thing that people missed when they were just glancing over this article for the first time. And when the fuck the beta dropping, bro? When do the teams have access? Because that is an absolute joke that we're 2 months out and the players can't play on Overwatch 2. I mean, that is just a joke. It's a joke. But I'll unveil my copium take here, actually. A lot of the stuff that's recently happening around the league, the fact that the players, they're like, did you see? Okay, you ready for my hardcore copium take? You ready for my hardcore copium, chat? All right, riddle me this. Riddle me this. Obviously, me and Brent have already talked about the fact that we had an offer, right? But we didn't think it was competitive, so we rejected it, and they didn't come back to us with a better offer, right? We've already talked about that tons of times. Doa also recently tweeted that ZP has not been reached out to with an offer. Buggers! Now, how do I want to follow this logic train? Then, the teams have not been granted access to a special team beta version of the Overwatch 2 client, right? So, we've got talent not getting paid dramatically more this year. That's just a fact. I mean, you can argue whether or not it's like less, the same, whatever. I haven't been specific on that. But talent not being paid dramatically more for a year when a big game is being released. The teams do not have access to a special beta version. The Overwatch content creators were really happy about something that they couldn't talk about. The copium take here is that this is a make-up, or this should be a make-or-break season for the Overwatch League, because if there is no playable beta for players to play on, the only way that they can see Overwatch 2 is via Overwatch League, right? If we start as that as the premise, okay? Let's start about that as the premise. If Overwatch League is the only way you can see Overwatch 2 and experience it in any way, they have to make Overwatch League incredible. Do you understand that assumption? Do you understand that premise? Because otherwise they're just letting their product die. I think that's a fairly obvious premise, because your marketing budget would be redirected into the league. That's my starting premise. It may be a completely flawed premise, but this is where I'm building this on. So, all of the indications to me are that that is not the case. Because of things like the teams have not been given any special access to make sure that they're comfortable on it beforehand. The talent have got wonky stuff going on with them. There was something else as well. There was a third point, but I can't remember exactly what it was. So, and the content creators were excited about something that presumably wasn't to do with the Overwatch League. Because if the content creators were excited to that degree about Overwatch League, that would be bizarre. So, to me, my hardcore copium take is that I think the thing that I've been talking about for months may end up happening, where this beta version surely has got to be released at the same time as the Overwatch League going live. Because if it's not, they've completely tanked their product. And the only way I can make it a clueless emote, yeah, I mean, it's maybe a hardcore clueless take, but it's the only way it makes sense in my head. Because if Overwatch League is the only way that you can view the game, they're really fucking up their way of being able to execute that properly. And the only way that Overwatch League isn't important to your marketing efforts is if it just gets superseded massively by something else. I guess the question is, could the content creators have kept a lid on the fact that an Overwatch beta was coming out? I'm not convinced they could have, to be honest. Maybe the NDA had life or death punishment in it. What value do they get from telling content creators that early? That's a good question. I don't know. I think probably the value they get is that the content creators stick around in the game. Because if you think about it in terms of like a time investment, right? If you're an Overwatch content creator and there's nothing on the horizon until 2023, I might go and become a Valorant content creator or an Apex content creator or a Minesweeper content creator because there's more updates happening in those games. There's more opportunities for growth on my platform. But if you tell me that there's a beta coming out in, I don't know, 5 months or whatever, I can't remember when they got told. And I'm not saying they did get told about this. I have no idea. Pure speculation. But if they did, that acts as an incentive to stay attached to the game and be that original marketing tool. So, I don't know. I've been mulling this over recently, partly because Richard Lewis posted a YouTube video recently where he'd been talking to people behind the scenes at the Overwatch League. And I talked about this on stream a little bit too, but he'd been talking to... Who the fuck had he been talking to? He'd been talking to... Oh, I've been talking to a range of different people. I can't exactly remember at this point. I did write some stuff down, but I talked about it on stream a while back, and now I can't remember. But he was talking about the... he was saying some of the people involved in the franchises are looking to get out as well. I mean, I'm sure you could guess which ones because they've been putting just... I'm not saying this is true, but some of the franchise owners have been putting absolute minimal effort into their franchises for the last couple of years, right? So that's not exactly surprising. But there was something else he said in that video too that made me think it was this. What was it? I can't remember. Something though that built upon the idea that Overwatch League was not being pushed as this like make or break year, which made me think, okay, maybe our assumptions are vastly incorrect and this isn't a make or break year for OWL. And in fact, the marketing efforts are going in a vastly different direction. Anyway, so that's my mild copium take, is that maybe they've done something correctly. And when the beta gets... Oh, that was the other thing that he said, actually. He'd been talking to some people in the development side of Overwatch. And Richard Lewis was saying that that a lot of people have been pulled off the PvE portion of Overwatch 2 in order to push more heavily the PvP part for a release at the beginning of the league. Because at the beginning of the league, there has to be a release of the beta. At least for the players, right? But maybe it would be public as well, like we've been talking about for months. And he was saying that that's actually directly led to some people being kind of their time and resources being pulled away from the PvE portion, which I thought was hilarious because the main r/Overwatch subreddit has been saying for years that Overwatch League is killing the game and slowing it down and stopping development and stuff like that. And as far as I'm aware, it's never been true up until perhaps right now. So who cares about PvE? A huge amount of people. Bro, Overwatch 2 is essentially PvE, the game. It's just also got a PvP reboot attached to it. But they wouldn't call it a whole new game if it didn't have a PvE component. The PvE thing is the main shove. Anyway, there's the Overwatch drama for today. There's the Overwatch speculation. Did you see the 4chan leaks? Yeah, they were bullshit. They were literally made by somebody on the subreddit, weren't they? I saw that. But Sideshow, what happens if your assumption about Overwatch League being a crucial marketing tool is correct and they just beef it? Well, then it won't matter anyway because it'll tank. I mean, it won't matter for people on the outside. Oh yeah, Jonak posted something, right? Jonak posted a tweet. I actually didn't read it. But this was all the stuff that I wanted to talk about today. So I'm going to review that G2 Fnatic VOD before I get bogged down. Owl update? What is this? What's new in 2022? Ah. Community update? Intriguing. What's in here? This must be the thing that Matt was excited about.
I'm afraid your inside reliable sources are incorrect. I'm happy to officially announce that our season will begin this year on May 5th.
Interesting to be mocking people talking about the league starting late and announce that you're starting late. Strange. Strange tone to begin the video. No? When John said in September last year that it would be starting in April. Okay. Unusual beginning.
Yeah, it's going to be May 5th. That's going to be where the season starts this year.
We can confirm that we are planning to return to live events this year. More details to come and pending safety conditions.
Ah, for fuck's sake.
We are just really excited to get everyone under one roof again.
No dramas. I think everything I need to know. But
God damn it, that was the thing that I was looking for them to talk about in this video, because we had that article earlier on that was saying that the West was returning to a homestand model, which just, I can't see them doing a full traveling thing constantly. But maybe they are. I would imagine that it's more of a split between online and live. It feels too early to go straight back to homestands, but I don't know. No, I've sped this up because this video is long.
I'll probably just
and there's a lot of interim between each thing.
Sounds about right. All right, Kennedy, the moderator of competitive Overwatch. That's...
Yeah. I gotta be honest, the journalist bit didn't get me, but that little penciled on mustache for a forum moderator has fucking got me. That's a good one.
Yeah, thanks. I come from a long line.
All right.
We will have 4 tournaments this year. Some regional, some global.
The first tournament of the
Oh, right. So they are doing, when I said it was a mid-season invitational, I mean, they're calling it the mid-season madness global tournament. So yeah, this is confirming then that the first and the third stage are regional, which I think is a big step backwards for the league. I wonder what's going on with the Countdown Cup though.
year, which is the kickoff clash, and 6 days of Overwatch. I'm really excited for those.
6 days of Overwatch in the mid-season event. That is going to be a banger of an event. I mean, that will feel fucking awesome, but I still think the overall thing is just moving backwards based on last year. But that mid-season event is going to feel good. 6 days of like global Overwatch is going to feel like a fucking awesome event. It's just unfortunate it comes at the cost of the Stage 1 and Stage 3 finals. You only have 2 real finals events all year.
Oh, Okay. All right. I like to see it.
The staff here at Owl working.
That looks
really
like
hard
that's
to
it
make this
in terms of
season
the
come
information
to light. And then also just
for this one.
really nice to get a lot of feedback from last season. I think a lot of people enjoyed the format, and I think the changes we made this season.
I'm
is,
gonna
direct
watch the
response to
last
feedback. So
minute
really
just
excited
in
for 2022.
case there's
Yes,
more.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you to our community, to
These are
prepare
just
everyone
thanks.
for a successful make. Just remember that my name is John Spector. So
Okay, all right. So overall, that told us basically nothing except that the league is going to be starting late on May 5th and confirmed Halo's article from earlier. But we still don't have any information about how many live events there are going to be. Live events implies not constant, but Halo's article kind of did imply constant by talking about them as if they were homestands. But we only had 3 homestands in 2019, so yeah. Also, no news on Overwatch 2 or when the teams will have access to the beta, but frankly, I think the only thing that makes sense for them delaying the season, there's no reason the league would want to eat humble pie about delaying the season. That has to be because of the beta, right? I would imagine that the Overwatch beta got delayed and therefore they have to push back the start time of the league. Otherwise, I can't think of a logistical problem that would cause, I mean, maybe there are some, but that to me seems the most likely logistical problem that would lead to the league starting a little later than usual. I'm not talking about a public beta, guys. I'm talking about the beta that the pros are playing on. You know? Maybe they promise teams N weeks to practice. Yeah, they may have done that, right? They say to the teams, you will definitely have 3 weeks before the league begins to practice. We will guarantee you that. And then the beta isn't ready. So they're like, oh shit, we need to push it back by 3 weeks so that we have those extra weeks for the teams. Something like that. It's got to be something to do with the beta that the pros are going to be playing on. From the Owl website, conditions permitting, the second and fourth tournaments of the year are planned to be global live events. To do this, we're introducing a brand new mid-season event in addition to the postseason tournament. Yeah, I already know that, Carlos. That was in the video. I'm talking about live events in North America for stages 1 and 3. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, the tone of the video felt very weird at the beginning, especially. But I think they're trying to lean more into the lighthearted stuff. Just felt like a weird time to do that. Kind of felt condescending, which is not a good way to start your communications. All right, let's get back to this.